tyranny of corsetry.
I heard Mr. Macy was sending a representative all the way from New York City.
Miss Eloise told me a man is here from Harrods in London, England.
I'll be sure to linger around his chair.
Are you nervous, Nicolette? She's not nervous. She likes prancing about in her underclothes for wealthy men.
Ladies, we're about to begin. I shouldn't need to impress upon you the importance of today's events. No mistakes. Be perfect. And now we have Charlotte, wearing the House of Eloise's summer model in the traditional style, for the lady who prefers to maintain a classic shape. Italian sateen and couture with baby ribbon and lace trim. Cordite filled with a genuine padded whalebone busk. Retail suggested at $1.75. Nicolette sports our princess hip corset, made in a new erect form style. You'll notice the shapely S curve of her body. Steam molded to remove all stretch from the fabric. Whalebone filled, fine French couture with sateen trim. Retail suggested at $3.50. And now for our pièce de résistance. My new innovation, a modern corset for a modern woman. This corset is not for the grand dames of society, nor is it for the woman of leisure. This corset is for today's woman who plays as hard as she works. A corset as freeing as the life ahead of her. This new patented technology is exclusive to me, and you're the first to be seeing it. Oh, dear. No need to panic, everyone. Please, just take your seat. Tiny interruption. We'll resume immediately. Please take your seats.
Sir, the victim was Miss Isabel Young. She was standing right here modeling a corset when this brick was thrown through this window. She was unfortunately struck and died shortly thereafter.
George, where is the body?
Sir, it had been removed to the dressing room. Miss Eloise did not want to further distress her guests.
Do we know who threw the brick?
No, sir. Although there was a group of women protesters, apparently, dressed reformers. They scattered quickly. The lads are trying to track them down now.
And this Miss Eloise?
She's the owner of the establishment, sir. Not entirely a pleasant woman.
Miss Eloise. Detective William Murdoch, Toronto Constabulary.
Detective. An accident such as this is hardly concerned for the constabulary. Nicolette, take the Americans more champagne. Be quick about it.
Miss Eloise.
Detective Murdoch. I'm trying to salvage a very important event. The future of my business is riding on its success. Your presence is making a terrible accident much worse.
I see. Do you have any idea who may have thrown the brick?
None at all. Charlotte, stop that man from leaving. I will sell Harrods this season if it kills us all.
None of your guests will be leaving until I am good and finished, Miss Eloise, so there is no need to worry. Have you received any threats of late?
No.
But, Miss Eloise, the letter.
Charlotte, Harrods.
What letter would that be, Miss Eloise? An unfortunate accident, you say?
Cause of death appears to be this wound to her head.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Grace.
Detective, I understand this woman was modeling a corset at the time of death?
That's correct.
She isn't wearing one now.
Oh.
Surely my guests may leave now. These men represent Mr. Eaton, Mr. Simpson, Mr. Macy, and even Harrods. They do not take kindly to being kept a prisoner.
Where is the corset this young lady was wearing at the time of her death?
It is company property and the key piece of my current collection.
It is evidence in an investigation of a suspicious death.
Suspicious. A brick flew through the window and hit her on the head. We all saw it.
The corset, Miss Eloise.
Nicolette.
Thank you. Miss Green, is it? Do you know who may have sent Miss Eloise the threatening note?
I haven't the faintest idea.
Thank you. Do you know of anyone that may have wished her harm?
There is someone.
Thank you.
Gareth Clark. Clark & Co. Corsetry.
Did you write this note?
If I were to threaten Eloise, I would do it to her face. And I would never harm a lovely young model. You really should be looking at those annoying protesters.
You believe them to be responsible?
Well, who else? Corsets are the devil's torture chamber and other such nonsense. Shrewish things who can't attract a suitor no matter how tightly they lace.
Could you describe any of them?
Unmemorable, except for the ringleader. She was wearing a straw boater, dyed black, if you can believe such a thing.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Poor thing. This gash on her head, is that what killed her?
It's likely, but I try not to draw a conclusion until I have all the facts before me.
And how long until you have all the facts?
Some hours yet. She'd been tight lacing for quite some time. You can feel her organs pushing into her abdominal cavity. Her lungs are compressed. She was likely unable to eat very much. And I believe at least 2 of her ribs are cracked.
Corsets are wretched creations. I don't wear one myself.
Oh, I couldn't imagine not wearing a corset. I would feel so
Free?
exposed and improper. I work with men.
Dr. Grace. Miss Moss?
Detective, I wasn't expecting you so soon. I can assure you that I'm focused on the case at hand.
I should leave you to your work. I'll have the new pamphlets for the auction tomorrow.
A straw boater dyed black.
I wasn't trying to kill anyone. I couldn't have known she was standing there. I was making a statement.
You did more than
That poor dead girl on the table. Her body warped and twisted into unnatural shape,
isn't
all for
the
some
point.
farcical idea of beauty. It's barbaric and outdated thinking.
Miss Moss, why you threw the brick is immaterial. At best, you'll be charged with destruction of property. At worst, manslaughter. Either way, you'll be spending a night in our cells.
Detective, you must know I didn't wish for anyone to die.
Did you write this note to Miss Eloise?
No.
Simon! What on earth happened to you?
Nothing.
Simon!
I saw a penny on the sidewalk, and I thought it was my lucky day, but when I bent over to pick it up, some kid socked me in the ribs.
So you got into a fight?
He hit me first. It was my penny, and he stole it. What was I supposed to do? You don't believe me.
Well, who's this other boy?
That's him.
All right, you go on home. I'll take care of it.
I can take care of it right now.
Simon, you're going home right now.
Father, may I have my penny back now?
I'll keep hold of it till this matter's settled.
But it wasn't my fault. I was reaching for it first.
I know, I believe you, Bobby. Higgins, can you take Bobby and get him cleaned up? Of course. Come on, lad.
The blow from the brick was not the cause of death.
Then what was?
Suffocation.
And not blunt force trauma, are you quite sure?
Petechial hemorrhaging. I'm quite sure.
Have you determined the cause of suffocation?
Her ribs were cracked, which isn't uncommon amongst women who tight lace. There were no particulates in the esophagus, meaning nothing was held over her mouth. And her airway did not swell, nor was it blocked.
Well, then how?
Given she was standing upright in a room full of people for some time before she collapsed, I simply have no idea.
One hint of discomfort, and this is coming off.
I remember when I was a girl, our nanny forcing Ruby and I to sleep in our corsets. She tied her arms behind our backs so we couldn't remove them in the night.
That seems somewhat extreme.
Common practice, actually. But in our case, she was dismissed, and our mother let us run free, probably longer than she should have.
Well, that would explain a thing or two.
It's enormously comfortable. Nothing horrid poking out anywhere. I can breathe normally, yet I feel quite supported. It's remarkable. It isn't forcing my posture in any way. And it's oddly fetching.
It is that. I ordered hot chocolate. Good evening. Thank you.
Julia!
I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe. Wait. This corset is your killer.
Clean break. Keep it wrapped for 6 weeks, then we'll see.
I feel so foolish. Imagine a corset squeezing me to death, and my only injury is a broken wrist.
Breathe.
I'd never have imagined a corset could suffocate a woman had I not felt it myself.
You're perfectly fine, apart from the wrist, of course.
Thank you, Emily.
What we women put ourselves through, those dress reformers have a point.
And not taken to the extreme. A corset does serve a purpose.
Yes, but why should we feel the need to conceal supposed flaws? Why can't women just wear what they want and make their own choices?
Well, not all women are in the position to do so. You and I still wear a corset every day.
Good morning, ladies. Julia, my goodness, what happened to you?
Corset injury.
What can we do for you, Lillian?
I've brought the campaign flyers hot off the presses. Margaret Hale. Equal rights to all, special privileges to none. What do you think?
It's excellent. But Lillian, I must request, on behalf of the campaign, that you refrain from throwing any more bricks.
Julia, in my experience, action invokes change. And often that action must be violent lest it be ignored.
And in my experience, change must happen within social boundaries, lest it be dismissed as radical.
Perhaps you should loosen more than just your corset.
I'm free this afternoon. I can go canvassing with Lillian.
Lovely. And I promise to be proper, at least for today.
So it was the corset then?
I believe so, sir. How? Corsets are stiff molded supports encased in fabric, designed to force the body into an artificial shape.
Right, yes.
This corset, however, exhibits none of those standard traits.
For a married man, you seem to know a great deal about corsets, Murdoch. What do these bits do then?
I have no idea.
Sir, the texts on garment making you requested?
Ah, thank you, George.
Sir, do you think young Bobby Brackenreed is on the up and up?
I have no reason to believe he isn't.
Lying and stealing, sir, that's not normal for a boy his age.
George, lying and stealing is exactly normal for a boy his age.
Having the inspector as a father would have its own trials, I imagine.
George, I believe I've discovered how this corset killed Miss Young.
Indeed? How is that?
You see these pieces of chain link. When they are fitted together at exactly this angle, they create a ratchet, and they cannot be pulled apart. In fact, the ratchets will only tighten further.
Sir, what tightened it in the first place?
Well, I don't know yet. I haven't discovered any sort of triggering mechanism.
Is there a trigger of some sort?
Well, there must be. I just haven't found it yet.
Of course I designed it. You're holding my sketches bearing my official seal.
Is this all of them?
Yes. Charlotte, you've gained 1/8 of an inch on your waist. What have you been eating?
Nothing, I swear.
None of these sketches show the inner layer with the horizontal rows of metal keys.
If it's not in the sketches, it's not in the garment.
Miss Eloise, I believe you are failing to grasp the seriousness of this situation. You have admitted to designing a corset that has killed a young woman.
Oh, I understand the seriousness all too well. I've not had one inquiry about my product since the incident. And corsets don't kill.
Well, this one did. It was built for that very purpose.
Even if what you're saying is true, why on earth would I design such a corset when I was set to model it myself?
Who was aware of this?
It's hardly a secret. I always model in my fashion parades.
Well, Miss Eloise, if that is the case, if you were set to model the corset and this was public knowledge, then you very well could be the intended target.
So the person who built this corset not only set out to destroy my business, but me as well.
So it would seem.
I find that hard to believe. See, I am respected and beloved. I can assure you no one was trying to kill me. Charlotte will see you out.
Don't mind her. She's just like that.
Which is why I think there are plenty of people who wouldn't cry over her grave.
Yourself included. Why did Miss Eloise not model the corset?
She didn't model the corset because she was too fat to fit into it.
But did she not make it to measure?
Miss Eloise doesn't make anything. She draws it, and Miss Parks builds it.
Miss Parks?
Eunice Parks, the head seamstress.
We use a factory in Buffalo to produce the orders as they come in, but they've yet to receive this season's patterns.
And what of the corsets from the evening of the event?
I build the prototypes for the fashion parades.
Well then, perhaps you can tell me how these ratchets tighten.
I have no idea what that is.
By your own admission, you made this corset.
I made a corset, similar to this one, but this is not the corset that I made.
How can you be so sure?
This corset was sewn by a machine. I don't use machines. I personally sew each prototype by hand.
Oh. Well then, where is the corset that you built?
The last I saw it was the night of the fashion parade. I haven't the slightest idea where it is now.
Sir, Jackson and Higgins are on their way to the house of Eloise to look for the prototype of this killer corset.
Oh, good. And what have you, George?
Well, sir, I found out there are several corsetiers in Toronto, and they all use sewing machines.
Well, we'll need to speak with them all.
No need to, sir. I also found out that one of these corsetiers is Gareth Clark.
George, just because Mr. Clark's company uses machines doesn't mean we should rule out the rest of them.
Yes, but sir, I also learned that seamstresses are terrible gossips, and as it turns out, Mr. Clark and Miss Eloise were once involved. She was one of his best models, until she left Clark, opened a corset house of her own, and brought all his best clients with her.
Well then, bring in Mr. Clark, George.
Sir, he's in your office.
Did you collect any samples from his machines?
All 30, sir. They're on my desk.
Right. Well then, compare those samples to this corset as soon as you can.
Sure, right away.
Oh, and George, good work.
Crabtree, this business between Bobby and Simon needs dealing with.
Sir, I couldn't agree more.
I understand that for boys of a certain age, it's not easy without a man to look up to.
Without a man to look up to? Sir, Bobby hit Simon from behind. It was a dirty blow.
My boy doesn't fight dirty.
Sir, no offense, but how do you know?
Because, Crabtree, he's a Brackenreed. We win by skill and with spunk.
Sir, with all due respect, Bobby's no match for Simon. It's not a fair fight.
We'll see about that. I'll get the lads to build a boxing ring.
Boxing ring?
Fair fight. Winner takes the penny.
If that's what you want, I'm sure Simon would be happy to settle this once and for all.
As will Bobby.
We're comparing sewing samples from your machines to the corset that killed Isabel Young.
It's a waste of time. It's not the machines that differ, but the women operating them. And there are legions of seamstresses in this city who use machines.
You and Miss Eloise have a history, and that history gives you the strongest motive for seeing her dead.
I'm afraid I'm not following you.
You must have known Miss Eloise was planning to wear the corset that night.
Eloise was supposed to wear the corset? Of course. Her vanity knows no bounds.
Did you make the corset in the hopes of killing Miss Eloise?
I did not. If I was going to kill Eloise, why would I choose a corset? As bad for my business as for hers.
Would have expected the women of the annex to be a little more open to a female candidate.
Middle-class women are more interested in social climbing than social change.
Lillian, I know what you told Julia, but why did you throw the brick?
3 years ago, I refused to marry the eminently presentable suitor my parents had chosen for me. I was ejected from my home and cut off financially. I had dreams, Emily, of becoming an engineer. But I had to leave university and find a job. As a model, as it happened, at the house of Eloise.
I see.
Miss Eloise treats her models like cattle. And when I protested, I was summarily fired.
I'm sorry.
I'm not. If I hadn't been fired, I would have never dedicated my life to worthy causes. I would have never taken off the medieval torture device known as a corset, and I would have never met you.
Evans, Worsley, good job, lads. How you getting on, Murdoch?
Sir, very slowly. Higgins and Jackson were unable to find the original prototype at the house of Eloise.
You believe that whoever made the lethal corset swapped it for the prototype at the last minute? Find the corset, find the killer?
That was my hope, but I fear it may have been destroyed by now.
Do you have a suspect in mind?
Well, sir, now that we know Miss Eloise was the intended target, Well, I believe the killer may have not been present at the time of Miss Young's murder.
If he was there, he would have stopped Miss Young from wearing it.
Precisely.
Although if I wanted to kill Miss Eloise with a corset, and Miss Young comes out wearing it, I'll probably keep my mouth shut, or I'll be arrested for murder.
That's an excellent point.
Right, I'm going to keep Bobby away from Margaret's Yorkshire pudding. Training starts at dawn. You should leave too. Go do something fun this evening, Murdoch.
Oh, I plan to do exactly that, sir. A simple act of breathing may be all that was required to activate the mechanism.
The bellows should be higher. Of course, that a woman breathes in the upper section of her lungs. The diaphragm has no room to expand.
Hence the heaving bosom of a woman in distress.
Oh, I see.
That should do it.
Right then, let's get started. Dr. Grace, if I could trouble you to take measurements of the waist and bosom.
And what should I do? For heaven's sake, my wrist is broken. It hasn't fallen off. Hand me a measuring tape.
Right then.
Approximately 1/8 of an inch lost in the waist, 1/16 in the ribcage.
Isabel Young wore the corset for approximately 1 hour before her death. This could take some time.
An hour? I was barely wearing it for 5 minutes when I felt it tighten significantly.
What happened in those 5 minutes?
You laced me up,
You bent down to touch your toes?
and then you left the room, and all of a sudden I just couldn't get my breath.
The cocoa.
Cocoa.
Room service delivered cocoa.
There was a knock at the door and a sharp intake of breath. And that activated the mechanism. Dr. Grace, if I could trouble you for another measurement, please.
2 full inches lost in the waist and 1.5 in the ribcage.
The pressure being exerted is certainly enough to break ribs.
As happened to Isabel Young.
The knock startled me. I gasped, and it triggered the mechanism.
Much like a brick being thrown through a window would.
I imagine so.
The brick was the catalyst, and Lillian Moss threw the brick.
But why? Lillian may have radical ideas, but to plan such a devious murder, to protest the wearing of corsets.
Detective,
Dr. Grace?
Lillian worked for Miss Eloise. She was fired and has resented her ever since.
Emily.
I only learned of it today.
Eliminate the corsets and the devil who makes them in one fell swoop. Lillian Moss has made fools of us all.
Do we have your vote, Detective?
You see the similarities, Miss Moss? The paper stock is identical. You threw the brick through Miss Eloise's window. You wrote the threatening letter indicating premeditation, and you were once in Miss Eloise's employ.
How did you? I imagine Dr. Grace told you.
You had the ability to design a corset to kill Miss Eloise.
Detective, I hold no affection for Miss Eloise. No one who modeled for her does. But even if I could design such a corset, I couldn't make it. I can't sew to save my life. I ruined 3 campaign banners. Ask your wife.
What did you mean by this letter? Corsets kill.
They do kill, and maim. The brick was only meant to disrupt.
You've already lied to me once, Miss Moss.
I swear.
What about any of the other models? Would they be able to build this corset?
Charlotte Tennant was a seamstress before she became a model.
Make it full size, Burns, full size.
Sir, respectfully, shouldn't it be a foot smaller? I mean, they're just boys.
There's no sense in mollycoddling them, Crabtree. If they're going to fight like men, they should fight in a man-sized ring.
Henry, what's all this?
The boys are going to have a proper fight, sir.
The boys?
Simon is the clear favorite. Bobby doesn't stand a chance. Well, to the inspector, I said that, though.
Sir, I'm going to release Miss Moss. I no longer believe her to be involved in the murder. Also, I'll be returning to the house of Eloise to question the employees further.
Good, good.
Good.
You really believe me capable of murder?
No, that's
even
not
worse that you could so easily betray my confidence.
Lillian, I work with the police. It was pertinent information.
Imagine me thinking you could be.
Be what?
My secrets are mine to keep.
This is my job. You have to understand that.
I don't, actually. Of course, Miss Eloise is strict and mean. Except to Isabel. She was the favorite. She got invited to dinner with clients and everything. but I didn't mind. Isabel was nice.
You started here as a seamstress.
Yes, I was truly terrible at sewing. I was lucky Miss Eloise fired that Lillian girl and needed a model right away.
Did you use a sewing machine?
Heavens, no. I can never understand how to work one of those contraptions.
What about any of the other models?
Nicolette Green only cares about finding a husband. Good luck to her. She's hardly a ray of sunshine. She even works the odd time for Mr. Clark. And never mind the champagne she stole from the fashion parade.
She also works for Mr. Clark?
It's true I don't care for the way Miss Eloise treats us, but this is the best house in the city, which means I meet the best clients. I would never jeopardize my position here.
Then why work for Mr. Clark?
Beauty costs money, detective. And men like their women beautiful, don't they?
Do you know of anyone that may have wished Miss Eloise dead?
Mr. Clark does like to watch her suffer. I think he was trying to poach our seamstress.
Eunice Parks.
I saw her leaving Mr. Clark's office 2 weeks ago.
Nicolette, get dressed. You're accompanying me to dinner with the buyer from Harrods. The detective can see himself out. That is, if he isn't too busy ogling young girls to solve a murder.
Miss Eloise.
I'm sorry, but this has been a very trying time.
14-1? I wouldn't bet on Bobby at 100-1. 25 cents on 7. 14-1. I can't say I'm surprised. Poor wee Bobby's gonna have his lunch served to him.
Higgins! Did I just hear you say that the odds were running against my son?
You know, sir, I'm not sure what the lads are thinking. I'm sure they're just blinded by Simon's height. Hey, Goliath's height didn't mean anything to David, did it, sir?
And who did you bet on?
I was just gonna lay my money on Bobby.
Where now? How much?
10 cents? I mean, 25 cents, sorry. That is $1?
That sounds about right.
Should I put the kettle on, sir?
Good lad.
Please, come in. I understand you attempted to poach Miss Eloise's seamstress.
Miss Parks came to me, unsolicited.
Oh, why was that?
She wished to sell me a design, a very innovative one, with the condition that I hire her as head designer.
And you declined?
Well, on the contrary, I was thrilled. But when I went to the patent office to register the designs, I found them already spoken for. Miss Parks obviously stole the designs from Heloise and tried to pass them off as her own. I couldn't very well hire her after that.
I see. You've brought the drawings?
Yes. It's all worked out, since that is the very corset that killed that lovely model. I couldn't weather a scandal like that.
Eunice Parks was the designer of the corset. Miss Eloise stole the drawings from her. Henry?
Sir?
Arrest Eunice Parks for the murder of Isabel Young.
She's the one?
I believe so, sir.
You believe? So you have no proof then?
Well, not as of yet. I'm hoping to find the original corset that Miss Parks sewed and compare it to the one that killed Isabel Young.
You're hoping to prove that she sewed them both?
Precisely. I'll have George search her boarding house as soon as possible.
Crabtrees are the wise. Occupied today. Let me take care of it for you.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Higgins!
I did not make the corset that killed Isabel.
Miss Eloise stole your design, your revolutionary design, and you were seeking revenge.
I created it under her roof. It was her right to assume ownership.
Where is the original prototype?
I cannot say.
Constables are searching your boarding house as we speak. It will be found.
I assure you, it will not. I imagine I'm free to leave?
Yes, for now. Miss Parks, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to stay a little longer.
You're right. It was hidden in the one place no man would think to look.
Thank you, Julia. I'm hoping to prove that she sewed the killer corset as well. Perhaps your eye for fashion will see something that I can't.
Well, the corset Miss Parks was wearing is of exceptional quality. It was most certainly sewn by hand.
That would fit her story.
The stitching on the corset that killed Miss Young lacks the same artistry. I'm sorry, William, but I see no indication that they were sewn by the same hand.
Perhaps they weren't sewn by the same hand at all.
I fail to see the point of this.
This aberration in the stitch is the same as that of the corset that suffocated Isabel Young. You interrupt the flow of the petal at the same interval. Eunice Parks, you built a murderous device with intent to kill. I am charging you with the murder of Isabel Young.
I never meant for Isabel to die. I didn't know she was wearing the corset. I was sent out to buy more champagne. I still don't know why Miss Eloise wasn't modeling it. It was custom made for her. It fit her like a glove just the day before.
She didn't model the corset because she was too fat to fit into it.
Good day, Miss Tennant. I wonder, do you recall exactly why Miss Eloise chose not to model that corset?
Of course I remember. Nicolette tried her best, but she just couldn't squeeze Miss Eloise into it. It was rather comic.
And what happened then?
I volunteered to wear it, but no, it had to be Isabel as always.
You volunteered?
Of course. I was the only one who never got to wear it.
How do you mean?
Nicolette tried it on the day before the fashion parade, but I never got my turn because Miss Parks came in all of a sudden and barked at Nicolette to take it off right away. I don't know what all the fuss was about.
Tighter, Charlotte. Tighter. What are you doing? Take it off. This is for Miss Eloise to wear, and she alone.
You knew the corset would suffocate whomever was to wear it. You offered to help Miss Eloise put it on, pretended that it was too small for her, knowing that Miss Young would be selected to wear it in her place. You sent Miss Parks out for more champagne, ensuring that she wouldn't be there to foil your plan. You intended to trigger the mechanism yourself, but the brick beat you to it.
Detective, the last thing I would want is to harm the reputation of the House of Eloise.
No. Just relieve Miss Young of her position so that you could become top model.
Well, I can't deny that has happened.
You murdered an innocent young woman for free dinners in the company of gentlemen?
I didn't throw the brick, Detective. I didn't make the corset. I didn't even lace it on Isabel.
No. You just manipulated events to be sure that Miss Young would be the one wearing the corset.
I played a prank on a vain woman. I hardly think that to be a hanging offense.
Bobby's smaller than Simon. That needs to be addressed in the rules.
Well, sir, what would you have? Should Simon fight the whole thing with an arm tied behind his back?
Well, that's a start.
Sir, you can't be serious.
Well, obviously not the whole fight, but the first round needs to be a fair fight, remember?
Sir, if that's the way it's going to be, Simon won't fight at all. Isn't that right, Simon?
Well, Bobby won't fight if he's already lost before he starts, will you, Bobby? Crabtree. Lads. Boys. Here's a penny each. Get yourself an ice cream.
Thank you.
What do you say, Simon?
Thanks.
Off you go, lads.
Why don't you and I have a go, Crabtree?
Oh, sir, I couldn't. I've got tennis elbow.
You don't play tennis.
Well, technically, it was a football injury, sir, but...
You don't play football either.
Sir, I was hit with a hockey puck in the elbow as a child. It's never fully...
It's a pity Eunice Parks will never see her talents recognized. And what will happen to Nicolette Green?
The jury will likely see a pretty young woman and not the devil inside. She may likely get away with it.
That's a pity. That corset was quite innovative. I would have bought one myself. Minus the murderous mechanism, of course.
I find it difficult to feel sorry for Miss Eloise. She really is a most unpleasant woman.
William, it's not an easy feat to rise to the top of one's profession.
You did, with grace.
Yes, but not all women are afforded the same advantages. When a woman like Miss Eloise fights her way up the ladder, she must keep fighting, lest she lose everything.
I don't think she's lost quite everything. Rumor has it that she and Mr. Clark have reignited their romance.
Rumor has it.
Seamstresses can be such gossips.
Lillian, I can see how it looked. I don't blame you for doubting me. I understand why you did what you did.
I'm glad to hear it.
But you must understand, Emily. My suffragist sisters are all I have.
I do understand. It's just... sometimes the way you behave, you frighten me.
I frighten you?
You will do anything for the cause.
Not just for the cause.
I doubt I have your passion.
You do. You lead by example.
It doesn't feel like enough.
Then do more. Lead by action instead.
I want to go corset free.
Now that I can help you with.